Hello guys, and welcome to another sewing tutorial. My name is Ihuoma Judith, and today I'll be showing you how to make this very beautiful A-line dress with a cowl neck design. And this dress has loops at the side of the dress where we'll be inserting our rope to give it this snatch waist effect. And I'll also be teaching you how to make this exaggerated bell sleeve. So in making this dress, I made use of 4 yards of Duchess fabric. So if this is something you're interested in and you would love to know how to make, then let's get right into the video. So I started by folding my fabric into two like this, and the length I folded it was 19 inches. Okay, so I folded my fabric by 19 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line at the top of my fabric. So this line is going to be called our shoulder line or starting line. So the next measurement I'll be taking is my shoulder to waist measurement. So from the starting line, I measured down to my waist, which is 18 inches, and I marked across my fabric like this, and with my ruler I drew a straight line. So this is going to be called our waistline. So the next measurement I'll be taking is my waist to hip measurement. So from the waistline, I measured down to my hip, which is 10 inches, and I marked across my fabric like this, and with my ruler I drew a straight line. Okay, so this is called the hip line. So the next measurement we'll be taking is from the waist to slightly above the knee. This is to give it that man-made curved shape. Okay, so you will measure your waist to your knee and go up by 3 inches. That is the mark we are going to be using. Okay, so mine is 19 inches. So from my waist, I'm going to go down to 19 inches and mark across my fabric like this. And with my ruler, I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line. So after that, the next measurement I'll be taking is my full length measurement. So from my starting line, I went down to 61 inches, which is the full length I'm working with, and I went ahead and marked it across my fabric like this, and with my ruler I drew a straight line. Okay, so now the next measurement I'll be taking is going to be my folding allowance. So from the full length, I'm going to go down by 1.5 inches across my fabric like this, and I'm now going to go ahead and rule a straight line. Okay, so now that I'm done with my vertical measurements, so the next thing I'm going to do is on the starting line, I'm going to go in by 3.5 inches, and I marked this is going to be my neck width, and I'm going to go down by 1.5 inches and mark this is going to be my neck depth. So I'm going to go ahead now and create a curve connecting it to form our neckline shape. So after that, the next measurement I'll be taking is my shoulder line measurement. So on the starting line, I'm going to go ahead and mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2. So my shoulder measurement is 16 inches divided by 2 is 8 inches plus half an inch, that is 8.5. So I went ahead and marked at 8.5 inches. So on that 8.5 inches mark, I went down by 1 inches, and from that 1 inches mark, I'm going to go ahead and connect it to my neckline, creating my shoulder slope. Okay, so after that, the next measurement I'll be taking is my armhole line. So my armhole line is 8 inches. I went down from that 1 inches mark down to 8 inches, and I marked. So to get your armhole line, you will divide your bust round by 6, and whatever you get, you add 1.5 inches to get your armhole line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead with my ruler and connect the marks together, drawing a straight line. Okay, so now on that 8 inches mark, I'm going to go ahead now and draw a straight line across my fabric like this, and this is going to be our chest line. All right, so after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to create my armhole curve. So on that armhole line, I'm going to go ahead and mark the center, which is 4 inches. Remember that my armhole line is at 8 inches, so the center is 4 inches, and I mark. So on that 4 inches mark, I went in by half an inch. So I'll go ahead and connect the starting of my armhole line to that half an inch that we went in by, then to the chest line, creating a curve like this. So just go ahead and follow it up like this, creating a curve. If you have your armhole curve, you can go ahead and make use of it. If you don't have it, use your free hands like this. And with that, we have created the armhole curve. So now the next measurement I'll be taking will be on the chest line. So my chest line, I'm going to go ahead and divide my bust round by 4 and mark. So my bust round is 38 inches divided by 4 is 9.5 inches, and I went ahead and mark. So now I'm going to add extra 2 inches for ease, and I marked, and I also added extra 1 inches for sewing allowance, and I marked. So you can use 1.5 inches, 2 inches for your ease depending on how much ease you want. Okay, so now the next measurement we'll be taking is on the waistline. So on the waistline, I divided my waist round divided by 4, which is 33 inches divided by 4, 8.25, and I marked, and I added extra 2 inches for ease, and I marked, and 1 inches for sewing allowance, and I marked. So now the next measurement we'll be taking is on the hip line. So on my hip line, I divided my hip round, which is 44 inches divided by 4, 11 inches, and I marked, and I also added my 2 inches for ease, and I marked, and 1 inches for sewing allowance, and I marked. So after that, I'm going to now calculate the total length of what I marked at my hip line, which is 11 plus 2 inches for ease and 1 inches for sewing allowance, which is a total of 14 inches at length. So I'm going to go ahead and minus 2 inches from that 14 inches, and that is 12 inches. I'll go ahead and mark 12 inches at the knee length. Okay, so the total length of whatever you get at your hip line, you minus 2 inches from it and mark it at the knee line. All right, so I've gone ahead and I have marked it. Okay, so now on the folding allowance line, which is the last line, I went ahead and marked at the end of my fold. Remember, I folded my fabric at 19 inches, so that is how wide my A-line dress is going to be, and I marked. So now it's to go ahead and connect the marks together. Okay, so from the knee line to the folding allowance line, which is the last line, with my ruler, I'm going to go ahead and connect the marks together, creating the A-line shape. Okay, so I'm just using my chalk to just trace out the line to make it more visible. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and connect the other marks, creating the shape of our dress. Okay, so go ahead and connect the chest line to the waistline, to the hip line, and down to our knee line, creating our dress shape. Okay, so now we are going to go ahead and cut out the dress following the lines that we have marked. All right, so with my scissors, I went ahead to trace out the lines. Okay, so go ahead and do the same for yours. So now on the neckline and shoulder line, I'm going to go ahead and cut above that lines by about ½ an inch. This is going to be for the sewing allowance. All right, so I'll go ahead now and cut it out like this, and with that we are finished cutting out the back piece. So this back piece, we are going to use it to cut out the front piece because the front piece has a cowl neckline. Okay, but firstly, I'm going to place this piece of this gum stay on the chest line of my dress. So this straight part, make sure that the gum stay, the part you're placing on the chest line of the dress is straight like this. So I'll go ahead and place it on the chest line like this, and I'm going to go ahead and pin it all around. Okay, guys, so I've gone ahead and I've pinned it all around. So I'll go ahead now and trace out the shape of the dress on the gum stay. So please, when doing this, make sure you don't cut your dress. So that's why we are making use of this gum stay, because it's transparent. Okay, so we'll go ahead and trace it out like this. We'll cut out the neckline like this, the shoulder line, the armhole on the gum stay. So this gum stay now is going to serve like a base for cutting the cowl neckline. Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and I folded my fabric into two, and I folded it at about that 19 inches, which is the same as the way I folded the back piece. But the difference is, from the shoulder line, I made the fabric to be longer than the back piece at about 19 inches. So go ahead and do the same for yours. Okay, so I'll go ahead now and unpin that gum stay that I pinned down on that back piece, leaving just the pin at the armhole line. This is going to help make the gum stay piece movable. Okay, remember I told you that we're going to use this as a base for cutting the cowl neckline. Okay, so after that, now I'm going to move the gum stay piece like this. Pay attention to what I'm doing closely. So I'm going to make sure that the space between the chest line of my dress to the downside of that gum stay is about 6 inches. Okay, so you can make your 7 inches, 8 inches, depending on how low you want your cowl neckline to be. Okay, so I made the space between the downside of my gum stay piece to my chest line of the dress at about 6 inches, and since I'm okay with that space, I went ahead and pinned down the gum stay piece like this. Okay, so after that, on the shoulder line of my gum stay piece, I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line on the fabric. So on the shoulder line of the gum stay piece, as you can see, go ahead and draw a straight line. All right, so now that I'm done drawing the straight line, on that straight line like this, I'm going to go ahead and fold in the remaining fabric. Okay, so when doing this, take your time to do this because this fabric is very soft, so it needs patience when dealing with it. Okay, so go ahead and carefully place it. All right. Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and carefully fold in the remaining fabric. So I'm going to be cutting from the shoulder slope. Okay, so I'm going to use my chalk now to mark out where I'll start my cutting from. So I'll be marking out the shoulder line, also called the shoulder slope, and I'll also mark out the armhole curve, as you can see, and the remaining part of the dress is just the same. Okay, so go ahead with your scissors and cut from the shoulder line like I'm doing to the armhole and down the dress. All right, so that is basically it for the cutting of the dress. Okay, very simple. So now I'm going to go ahead now and separate the back piece from the front piece like this. So I'm just removing my pins. Okay, so my office pin is like my best friend here because this fabric is very soft, so you will need your office pin to hold them together while cutting. Okay, so I'm separating the front and the back so that you can see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the front piece look like. Okay, so that remaining piece that we folded in is going to serve as a lining, so we don't need to cut in another lining to turn over. All right, so this is what it looks like. All you need to do is to just go ahead and balance it up properly, making sure that the shoulder line meets each other like this and the armhole is meeting each other equally like this. Okay, so if you follow exactly what I explained, you'll be getting something like this. All right, so here I'm just showing you how the cowl neck effect is going to be like this. Okay, so now the next thing we are going to do is to stitch down the shoulder line and the armhole of the turnover fabric together with the dress like this. So make sure you pin it down before stitching it down because this fabric is quite soft, so to avoid it from moving around. Okay, now so for the back piece, I'm going to go ahead now and bring a piece of my fabric like this, and I'm going to go ahead and fold it into two. You know that we are going to be using it to turn over the neckline of our back piece of our dress. Okay, so I'll go ahead and place my back piece like this. So I went ahead to pin down my fabrics like this to hold it in place. So now I'm going to go ahead like this now and trace out the neckline on my turnover fabric like this. Then on the shoulder line, I'm just going to go in by few inches. Okay, so now I'm going to now remove my back piece from the turnover fabric so that I can get the shape of what I want to use. Okay, so on my turnover fabric, I'm going to be measuring from the neckline all round by 2 inches like this. So I'll go ahead and mark 2 inches all round like this. This is going to be how wide I want the turnover fabric to be. Okay, so you can go ahead and make yours how you want it. Okay, so after that, I'm going to go ahead now and connect the lines. All right, and I'm going to cut through. So we have created the turnover piece for our back neckline. All right, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my back piece like this, and on the right side I'm going to place my turnover fabric on the neckline like this, right side facing the right side, and I'm going to go ahead and sew about 1/2 inch all around. Okay, so make sure you pin it down before you go ahead and sew it to help keep your fabrics in a place. Okay, Okay guys, so as you can see, I've gone ahead and I've sewed all around on the neckline. So I'll go ahead now and create tiny notches like this. Make sure that your notch does not cut through the thread, okay? This is going to help balance up the neckline. So now I'm going to push that 1/2 inch that we used in joining towards the turnover like this, and I'm going to go ahead and sew on that turnover close to the line. Push that joining to the turnover and sew on the turnover like this. Okay guys, so as you can see, I've stitched it down like this. I brought it closer so you can see what it looks like, and see the 1/2 inch we use in joining is facing the turnover. So I'll go ahead now and balance it up properly and give it a proper press. Look at the turnover is facing the wrong side of the dress, that is it, and I'll go ahead and give it a proper press. All right. Okay guys, so back to the front piece. As you can see, I've stitched down the shoulder line and the armhole like this. So I'll turn over my front piece to the right side like this, because I'll be joining the back piece to the front piece. So right side facing the right side like this, I'm going to place my back piece on the shoulder line like this. Okay, but before that, on the turnover of my back piece, I went ahead and added hemming gum to keep that turnover in place, and this is what the front of our back piece is looking like. Okay, so just go ahead and do the same for yours. All right, so I'll go ahead now and place the shoulder together like this, and I'm going to go ahead and sew 1/2 inch. You can pin it down to keep it in place. Okay, and I also do the same on the other side. Okay, so you pick the shoulder line of the front and the back piece, right side facing the right side, and sew straight down, and you can also pin it down also to keep it in place. Okay guys, so for the creating of the rope hole, I went ahead to cut out a piece of fabric at about 24.5 inches for the length, and the width is about 1.5 inches. Okay, so all you need to do is to just fold in both sides by 1/2 inch like this. You fold in both sides by 1/2 inch, then you fold down one side of the piece again by 1/2 inch like this, and sew straight down. So you're going to repeat the same process straight down, fold down both sides by 1/2 inch, and that same side that you folded again, you fold it by 1/2 inch and sew straight down. Okay, so you go ahead and do that. Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and I've created my rope for the rope hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out 6 pieces, because I'll be creating a rope hole of 6 pieces. So what I did was I measured out 4 inches and I folded it in to get six pieces of that rope equally. Okay, so you go ahead and just fold it in like I'm doing like this. So what now I'm going to do is, with my scissors, I'm going to go ahead now and cut out the ropes, creating the 6 pieces I need. Okay, so I went ahead to cut out the other side. So you can do this individually. Okay, so I just did this to just speed up time. Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and I've joined down the shoulder lines of my back piece to my front piece, as you can see. So I'll go ahead now and open up my dress like this. So on the right side, go ahead and open it up like this. So I went ahead and I've opened it up like this and I've balanced it. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my measurement from the shoulder line down to my waistline. So remember that my shoulder to waistline is 18 inches. So I went ahead and measured down 18 inches like this and mark. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and rule a straight line to meet the side of my dress like this. Okay, so after that, on that line, I'm going to go up again by 1 inches and mark, and I'll also go down from that my waistline by 1 inches and mark. So with my ruler, I'm going to go ahead now to rule a straight line on those marks. Okay, so now that I'm done, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out my sewing allowance. Remember, I gave a sewing allowance of 1 inches, so I'm supposed to mark at 1 inches, but I decided to reduce my ease allowance from 2 inches to 1.5 inches. So I removed that 1/2 inch and put it on my sewing allowance, which is 1.5 inches. So I went ahead to mark 1.5 inches, but just go ahead and mark out your sewing allowance that you give. Okay, so now I've brought out my ropes I'll be fixing on the side of the dress. So you go ahead and fold it into 2 like this and pin it on that mark that we gave. Okay, so make sure that the closed side of the rope is facing towards the inside of the dress, while the open side of the rope is facing towards the side of the dress like this. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pin it down on the 3 marks that I gave. Okay, remember we are making 3 belt holes on both sides of the dress. Okay, so now there's something I want you to notice is that the space I gave between the closed part of my belt hole to the sewing allowance that I marked is about 1 inches on both sides, so that it will be easy for my rope to pass through. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same process on the other side of my dress. Okay, so I'll measure from my shoulder to my waistline, which is 18 inches, and I marked, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line like this. So from that my waistline, I'm going to go up by 1 inch and mark, and from that waistline I'm also going to go down by 1 inch and mark. And with my ruler, of course, I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line, and I'll go ahead and mark my sewing allowance, which is 1.5 inches on the marks like this, and I'll go ahead and fix the ropes the same way we did on the other side. Okay guys, so as you can see, I've gone ahead and I've stitched down the ropes on the both sides of the dress, and I stitched it around 1/2 inch behind my sewing allowance. Okay, so now the next thing we are going to do is to go ahead and join the front piece to the back piece. Okay, so you go ahead and balance it up like this, right side facing the right side, and I'm going to go ahead and sew down the sides of the dress straight down by my sewing allowance, which is about 1.5 inches. Okay, so I advise you to go ahead and pin it down and mark out the sewing allowance you're using straight down like this, and go ahead and do that on the both side and sew down. Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and I've sewed down the sides of my dress like this, and I'm showing you the full view of what the dress looks like. So now the next thing we are going to do is to go ahead and fold down the downside of our dress, or our hem of our dress. But before that, we are going to first of all and create a curve on that downside of the dress. So I'm going to go up from the downside of my dress by about 1.5 inches, and I'll go ahead and mark. And from that 1.5 inches, I'm going to go ahead now and curve it down like this. Okay, so because I want to curve down the 2 sides, I'll go ahead and join the both sides of the dress like this. So go ahead and fold it into 2 like this and balance it up properly. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead now and trace out that my curved part. So make your own more curved than mine. I noticed that mine was not curved properly when folding it in, so go ahead and properly curve yours well. Okay, so with my scissors, I'm going to go ahead now and cut out that curved line. Okay, so now I'll go ahead to fold down the downside of my dress. Okay, so you open up your fabric like this, and you go ahead and fold it in by the sewing allowance you gave on the downside. So I gave a sewing allowance of about 1.5 inches, so I'll go ahead like this and measure out that 1.5 inches like this, and I'm going to go ahead and fold in the other end by 1/2 inch, and I'll go ahead and stitch it down. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that all around the downside. Okay guys, so as you can see, I've gone ahead and I'll fold down the downsides of my dress. Okay, so now the next thing is to cut out the sleeves for the dress. Okay guys, I've gone ahead and I've turned over my dress like this, and this is what the front is looking like. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out my armhole length. So from the shoulder line down to that my armhole depth, which is the side of my dress, I got 10 inches. So I'm just measuring the other side to make sure that it's also that 10 inches. So I'll be using this measurement to cut out my sleeve. Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and I've folded out the fabric I'll be using to cut out my sleeve, and on the starting of my fabric, I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line. Okay, and this is going to be called my starting line. So my fabric on fold is about 13 inches. That is how wide I want my sleeve to be. Okay, so now the next thing we are going to do is on that starting line that we drew, I'm going to go down by 4 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark 4 inches across my fabric like this, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line. You can use 4.5 inches if you're very chubby. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and mark my full length. So from the starting line, I'm going to go down to 29 inches. That is how long I want my sleeve to be. Okay, so I'll go ahead and mark at that 29 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and mark this across my fabric like this, and with my ruler I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line. Okay, So from my full length line, I'm going to go down by about 1.5 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and mark it across my fabric, and with my ruler I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line. So that 1.5 inches is going to be for both folding the downside of my sleeve by 1 inches, and the half inches is going to be for the joining of the sleeve to my dress, making it 1.5 inches. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to create my armhole curve. Okay, so now on that 4 inches that we went down by, I'm going to go ahead and mark my armhole length. Remember, we got 10 inches for my armhole length, so I'll go ahead and mark out that 10 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead now and connect the starting line to that 10 inches mark, creating a slanted shape. Okay, so with my ruler now I'm going to go ahead and trace it out. So go ahead and do the same for yours. So now the next thing, I'm going to go ahead and measure out what I got on the line, and I'm going to mark out the center. So I measured the line and I got 10 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark the center, which is 5 inches. Okay, so I'll go ahead and create a mark. So from the starting line, I'm going to go ahead and create an upward curve meeting the middle of that line, okay, by about half an inch. And from the middle of that line, I'm going to go ahead and create a downward curve meeting the armhole length, that is the downside. Okay, and I'll go ahead and measure out the full length of my armhole curve, and I'm going to mark at 10 inches, which is the full length I'll be using for my armhole curve. And from that 10 inches mark, I'm going to go out by 1 inches. This is going to be for my sewing allowance. Okay, so now on the full length line, I'm going to mark how wide I want my sleeve to be. So I'm basically using everything. So I'll go ahead and just put a mark close to the end of my fabric like this, and I'll go ahead and connect the armhole length to that full length, creating a slanted line like this. And with that, we have created our bell sleeve. Okay, so I'm just using my ruler to just straighten out that curved side. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead with my scissors and cut out the lines, and with that, we have created our bell sleeve. So for the cutting of the second sleeve, I just placed my fabric on fold again, and I placed my sleeve on it, and I'm going to go ahead now and trace out the shape on the fabric like this. And with that, we have cut out our two sleeve. So now the next thing we are going to do is to fold the downside of our sleeve. So I'll go ahead and fold it down by about 1 inch, and I'll do that for the both sleeves. So I've gone ahead and I've folded the downside of my sleeve. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and fold my sleeve into two like this. So the right side is facing the right side. So we're going to be sewing on the wrong side. So on the armhole curve of my sleeve, I'm going to measure out 10 inches, which is the length of my armhole, and I marked. Then on the downside of the sleeve, I gave about 1 inches for my sewing allowance, and I marked. So I'm going to go ahead now and connect the two marks together, creating a line. So I'll go ahead and sew down on that line, and I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same process on the other sleeve. So this is what the sleeves look like after sewing it down. So we are going to go ahead now and join the sleeve to our dress. So I went ahead and turned over my dress to the wrong side like this. And I went ahead and brought out one sleeve I'll be fixing on the armhole of my dress. So what I'm going to do is, on the center of the armhole of my sleeve like this, I'm going to go ahead and create a notch. So the notched part of my sleeve will be on the shoulder line of the dress, while the downside of the armhole of my sleeve will be facing the downside of the armhole of my dress. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go ahead now and turn over my sleeve to the right side like this, and I'm going to go ahead and put my sleeve into my dress from the armhole like this, and I'm going to go ahead now and place that notched part on the shoulder line of the dress like this, right side facing the right side, and I'll go ahead and pin it down. And also on the downside of the armhole of my sleeve, I'm going to go ahead and place it on the downside of the armhole of my dress, right side facing the right side like this, and I'm going to go ahead and pin it down. So after pinning it down, I'm going to go ahead to my sewing machine and sew all around the armhole by half an inch, holding the sleeve to the dress. Okay, so I'll go ahead and repeat the same process on the other side of the armhole of our dress. Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and I've sewn all around the armhole of my dress like this. And I'm going to go ahead and pull out the both sleeves, and this is what it's looking like. Okay, so I went ahead to trim out the excess allowance at the sleeve length because it was not necessary, and I weaved it down. I also went ahead to weave down the armhole and also weave down the turnover at the neckline for both the front and the back. And I also went ahead to weave down the sides. So I basically went ahead to weave down all the place that needs to be weaved. Okay guys, so this is what the dress looks like on the right side, and this is how the cowl neck is supposed to be. Okay, so I'll turn over the dress also to the back so you can see what it looks like. So now for the fixing of our rope, I went ahead to cut out a very long rope, and I went ahead to fold it that same way we folded our belt hoop, just that the difference is I'm going to go ahead and fold in the ends of the rope. So you can go ahead and fix your rope cross section like the way I'm doing it. Okay guys, so this is the final look of the dress, looking very stylish and simple. I hope you loved this video. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Please like, comment and subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you. And I hope to see you in my next video. Until next time.